Guys, as mentioned, had a great discussion last week on the cybersecurity space with Plurilock, and Ian Paterson, CEO and director of the company, back with us today to give us a little more insight on the company itself and learn a little bit more about this not only interesting sector, but an interesting company. It's focused on behavioral, biometric, environmental, and contextual technology in the cybersecurity space. It's great to have Ian Paterson back with us. PLUR, guys, on the venture exchange for Plurilock. Hey, Ian, good to see you as always. Let's get a brief intro here to start things off, and then we'll jump into the company a little bit more in depth. But tell us a little bit more about Plurilock.
Brendan, it's great to be back. Plurilock is a Canadian cybersecurity company. We're actually organized into two divisions. So we have a technology division where we build and sell our patented artificial intelligence software that you alluded to. And so we have a unique capability of being able to identify people based on their unique and distinctive behavior. So on a computer, this is the speed, rhythm, and cadence of how you type on the keyboard, how you move the mouse. And then separately, we also have a solutions division, and that's where we're acquiring great, profitable cybersecurity companies with tremendous customers. That's building up our distribution arm. And the ultimate value here is the cross-selling between the technology and the solutions division, where we take that high-margin software that we have, and then we cross-sell that into the distribution that we've acquired. So, big picture, that's sort of where we're operating. I usually like to describe the proprietary products that we have with an analogy of a house. If you think about a typical house, most people have a front door. Most people have a good solid deadbolt on that front door. But the question is, what happens if you just break a window and you go around that door? Well, Plurilock's products are like having a motion sensor inside your house that can identify if it's the right person based on their movement who are actually inside that house. So that's the analogy. Of course, we don't sell house products, we sell software products. But that's usually the way that I like to describe what we do.
And it's a great analogy in the sense that, everyone has their own personal computer typically, or their own personal device of whatever the sort. And this is a way to attach that on a security basis to its proper owner, which is a great concept. Let's talk about the space. We'll zoom out a little bit here and talk about the space itself. This is an ever-growing issue, as we said a little bit last week. A global issue that U.S. officials were saying that is here to stay, in a sense that we all have to kind of get used to it and come up with ways to not only deal with it on a daily basis, but understand it a little bit better. Give us your take here on how large we're talking of a sector currently, and where you see this going over the next, say 3 to 5 years.
Well, I would agree it's large. In 2022, the estimate is that the cybersecurity industry as a whole, you're looking at around a $300 billion market. But the really staggering number here is that on a 5-year basis, cumulatively, you're looking at about $1.75 trillion of spend. So it's just a massive opportunity. Plurilock's focused specifically within that. We're on the technology division side. We are very focused on identity of people. And so this plays into authentication. It plays into being able to recognize that it's the right person on the device. And also I'd say that geographically, while we have had some significant customer wins overseas, we're predominantly focused on North America. So any way you slice it, very, very large opportunity.
When it comes to, I want to touch on the technology side here a little bit again, Ian. When it comes to where we're headed, in that category specifically, does this become, as you mentioned, something that on a daily basis, any device will have the ability to identify its rightful owner and therefore, be more secure, hopefully, down the road?
Well, I think that when you're talking about authentication, there's a few key trends that are occurring. I think the first thing is that everybody is familiar with passwords. Hasn't really changed since the 1960s, 1970s, right? You prove your identity to a computer based on typing in a secret, which hopefully is unique But I think a lot of people use common passwords. So the whole paradigm of proving your identity to a computer really hasn't changed very much in the last 40, 50 years. Now, we have seen some fairly sizable announcements coming out. A number of companies just in the last couple of weeks have announced that they're moving to a new passwordless experience, Microsoft being one of them. So I think that there is starting to be a bit of a shift. But from our perspective, from Plurilock's perspective, we see that the whole concept of authentication is really tied to a specific point in time. So what do I mean by that? Well, think about when you're going into your office, typical work day, you might sit down at your device and log in at 9 o'clock in the morning. The question then is, are you still the right person 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon? And regardless of whether you're using a password or maybe getting a text message to your phone and just looking around, reaching for my phone, these are still point-in-time authentication. Now, fundamentally, our thesis at Plurilock is that authentication should be happening continuously. And so that's why with our technology, we're able to identify who you are every 3 to 5 seconds continuously throughout the workday. So in comparison to doing 1, 2, maybe 3 identity checks with a traditional system, with Plurilock, we're really looking at hundreds of identity checks throughout the day. And so that's just one of the ways that we see that there's going to be sizable trends which will affect change in this industry.
Topic in the sense that everyone's dealing with it on a continuous basis as more and more industries, more and more jobs get moved online and get moved to the remote aspect as well. More to come for sure in an ever-growing sector, an ever-growing space. CEO and Director of Plurilock, Ian Paterson, always a pleasure. Thanks again.